The industry I'm about to expose you to has made me over $470,000 in net profit at the age of 22 and is currently paying me over 30 grand per month despite me only working a few hours per week. And the crazy thing is, you probably never even heard of this industry, but despite that, it's quietly making regular people millionaires every single year by allowing them to take advantage of guaranteed income by doing business with the US Department of Defense. This industry has allowed me to transition from being a community college dropout, working at Wawa during COVID, pumping people's gas, taking out the trash, and scrubbing toilets, to traveling to over 35 countries, having the time freedom to train for and run multiple marathons and ultra marathons, and pay for my flight training, which has allowed me to become a flight instructor at the age of 22. Now, along the way, I've garnered over half a decade of experience, and I've learned a lot of very painful and expensive lessons. And in this video, I'm gonna share all of them with you for free. Welcome to the world of government contracting. By the end of this video, you're gonna have a step-by-step guide on how to do the exact same thing, even if you have as little as $500 to start out with and only a few hours of free time per week. Doing business with the US government is a very complex and high-stakes game. So I'm gonna break it down for you so simply that even a 4-year-old could understand it. Stay with me now. So the first thing is, think of DLA as like a giant warehouse or a magical place that supports all of the US government's soldiers, sailors, and their pilots. And there's a couple steps that you have to do before you get to go to this magical place. The first one is, you gotta go ahead and you gotta get registered. So how you would get registered is by going to the owner of the store, which is the US government, and going to, think of it as like their office, this place called sam.gov. And then you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna get registered there, and it's like writing your name and your address in a big notebook where all the owners of all of the stores can look for people whenever they need help with something. Then, once you've written your name in the US government's notebook, you can go back to DLA, and then you can say, hey, I wanna join the club, but I need a special card to do so. So to make sure that you're a serious helper, they're gonna send you a card that's gonna have a PIN number on it. You're gonna enter in that PIN number on this magical place called Dibs, which is a website where DLA posts a bunch of treasure maps to different kinds of treasure. So then, once you've gone ahead and you got registered, you're gonna go back to this website, Dibs, and you're gonna go look at all these different treasure maps. And there's treasure maps for all kinds of things that you already know how to find, like flashlights, like food, like shoes, like power tools, water filters, 1,000,001 different kinds of treasure maps. In fact, they buy over 16 million different line items, and they post over 10,000 solicitations, which is a fancy way of saying contract opportunities, every single week. So this is literally a cash cow. Now, once you've found the treasure maps, you're gonna search for stuff that you already know how to buy, and you're gonna gather the goods, i.e. sourcing the products. Now, people can source products from places that they go to every day already. Things like ladders you can get from Home Depot, things like coffee makers you can get from Walmart, things like medical supplies or first aid kits you can go ahead and get from Target. So you can source these goods and contribute to selling any of these 16 million line items with places that you already shop at every single day. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go back to DLA and you're gonna raise your hand, or you're gonna be submitting your bid, and you're gonna do this again in that magical place called Dibs. Now, after you find the items and then you raise your hand or submit your bid, the government's gonna reach out to you and they're gonna ask you, okay, how quickly can you get this to us? How expensive is it gonna be? And are you gonna be able to package and ship it the way that we want to the place that we want it? So that's step 4 after you've raised your hand and you've submitted your bid. Step 5 is winning the prize, i.e. winning the contract or getting awarded a contract. That's the industry terminology. Now, if your bid is the best based off of a myriad of factors, you're gonna win the prize, and DLA is gonna send you a special letter called a contract or a purchase order that says, we picked you, bring us the stuff. What you're gonna do is you're gonna read the contract, you're gonna make sure you understand it in its entirety. Once you do, you have 10 calendar days to not cancel the contract. As long as you don't cancel the contract within those 10 calendar days, it counts as your acceptance of the legally binding agreement between you and the government to provide them with the items. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to fulfill the contract by delivering the goods. And this is going to be done by receiving, inspecting, packaging, and shipping the material to the location that DLA wants while shipping and packaging the material within the regulations that they set forth. So that's a basic overview of government contracting product sales. Now, obviously I oversimplify that, but if you want help with all of those steps and you want a guaranteed step-by-step checklist on how to ensure that you're going to win your first federal contract within the next 45 days, click the link down below to book a call with me and my team. Now let's get into the actual step-by-step process. Here I've got a detailed flowchart that's going to give you guys the meat and potatoes of how to actually do business with the Defense Logistics Agency, laid out in an easy and simple to understand way. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to create your LLC and you're going to register it with SAM.gov. Approximately, this takes about 2 weeks. And then once you do that, you're going to get something called a CAGE code. CAGE code is a commercial and government entity code. Think of this as like your social security number for doing business with the federal government. This allows you to do business with any aspect of the federal government by registering yourself with them. You're entering your name and your address pretty much into a database so that way everybody knows who you are and can reach out to you if need be. Then you want to go ahead and you want to get access to this website called DIBS. DIBS is an acronym. It stands for the Defense Logistics Internet Bidboard System. In simple terms, it's literally a website where you go to find solicitations, which are contract opportunities, and then fill out this thing called this electronic quote submission form, which is submitting a bid on a contract, and then once you win a contract, all of them get posted there. So it's pretty much just like your portal to doing business with DLA. Now, keep in mind, no registration is needed to view solicitations and get quotes. There's a common misconception that people have that, oh, I have to be registered with the government to start looking at these solicitations. Not true at all. So many of the companies that we work with are literally starting from zero, and in the meantime, while they're getting their postcard and they're waiting for the government to validate them, they're going ahead and they are getting access to these solicitations and getting pricing and availability in the form of quotes. Now, keep in mind, once you get access to DIBS, they're going to validate you by sending you a postcard with a PIN number on it to make sure that you're not a bot, that it's not spam. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to examine 114 PSC codes, which are product supply codes, and you can do that by going to this website called psctool.us. So this website is where you go to find all of the different product markets that the government uses to categorize different items. Now, you might have heard about NAICS codes. PSC codes are far superior when you're doing government contracting product sales, just because NAICS codes are not as granular. There's only about, I believe, 30 to 40 NAICS codes. I don't know the exact number. It ends in a 7, and I want to say it's 37 NAICS codes, but there's 114 product supply codes, and these are a lot more granular, a lot more specific. So you can identify those by going to this website called psctool.us, looking up all the different product markets. And then you're going to highlight the ones that are appealing to you. You're going to pick 20 of them that are of interest or currently in your wheelhouse. And then you're going to go ahead and conduct 20 individual searches in this website called FPDS. FPDS is the Federal Procurement Data System, and this lists every single transaction that the federal government has ever conducted since 1978. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and narrow your search results when you type in your PSC code to anything less than 30K. If it's beyond 30K, then it's too wide and you're going to have to swap. You're going to have to swap the search results. And you're going to limit it to 30K cards, which are contract action reports. And you're going to do this by selecting DLA as the agency. And then if after you select DLA as the agency, there's still more than 30,000 results, you want to go ahead and limit your date range to the last 5 to 10 years of your search results. That's going to allow us to basically examine only the trends that are relevant to us in 2025, and we don't need to look at anything that's transpired beyond the last 10 years. Then you want to go ahead and you want to export as a CSV file into Sheets/Excel. So CSV is basically just a format, and you want to go ahead and put it into Excel, and you want to create a pivot table. You're going to create a pivot table, and you want to ensure that your values are in the currency format, and you want to go ahead and sort your results via dollar amount from largest to smallest. Then you want to quantify the income you want to replace and generate. So Basically, all you're doing here is figuring out how much money you actually want to make and then determining whether or not this product market is suitable for the amount of money that you want to make. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to start with the yearly number, and you're going to divide that yearly number down to monthly and then weekly. So for example, $100,000 per year is 8.34K per month, or $2,090 per week. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to bid on the metrics that we outlined for you. You're going to go ahead and bid on 20 contracts per week with a 10% success rate in the beginning. So remember, when you're brand new, you don't have a SPUR score, which is a supplier performance risk system score, i.e. like your report card for doing business with the government. You don't have a SPUR score, you don't have any past performance, which means you don't have a track record of doing business with the government. So your success rate is going to be about 10%. Then you know that your average award size, if you're looking to make about 100K with a 10% success rate, has to be at least $2,000 to $5,000. So you don't want to bid on any single solicitation that could be less than $2,000 or be valued at anything above $5,000. The next thing is you want to examine your results from the pivot table. If at least 25% of your transactions fall within your range, make note of this PSC code, and then you're going to go ahead and rinse and repeat for the other 20 PSC codes. Ideally, you should be left with about 5 to 10 PSC codes, and those are going to be your highlighted ones that you're going to primarily focus on. Then you want to take the highlighted PSC codes that fall within your ticket size and conduct a search for them in DIBS, which again is the DLA Internet Bid Board System. It's a free government website where open contract opportunities are posted. And when we conduct a search for these PSC codes, the threshold that we want to adhere to is we're looking for each of these PSC codes to have at least 200 open solicitations, meaning that each of these product markets has at least 200 contract opportunities, which is plenty for us to go ahead and start building our government contracting product sales business. The next step is we want to examine each contract opportunity. We want to avoid things such as high-level certification requirements. These are going to be things like your ISO certification. These are going to be things like your joint certification, program certification. These are going to be things like your AS 9001 certification. Those are all quality assurance things. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to go ahead and you're going to Command F in the PDF and see if any of those things that I just mentioned came up. If any of those things came up, you should probably move on from it just because the requirements to do business with the government on that solicitation are going to be really high for you as a beginner. A couple other things we want to avoid are really large quantities. So anything that's more than like 250 units, I probably would advise you to stay away from if you're a beginner. Then we want to avoid government inspection. So anytime the government is going to send somebody out to your facility to conduct an inspection before they decide that they're willing to receive the material and then most importantly pay you, we want to avoid that. We don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, especially when there's so many opportunities that are out there for commercially available items that the government has no qualms with paying you for as soon as you ship them, and they don't need to send anybody out to your facility to conduct an inspection for. And then the last thing that we want to be avoiding is we do not want to deal with any prototypes. So a prototype would manifest itself in the form of a first article test. This is basically whenever the government wants you to create one version of whatever item you're selling, send it to them. They want to put it through some rigorous testing and then determine whether or not it's suitable for them to proceed with the remainder of the order. As you can imagine, there's a lot of things that the government could find that would cause them to send the item back to you and then have to resubmit the item. Most importantly, this is really just going to delay your payment, and there is a lot of red tape that comes with this, so I always tell new companies you want to avoid these if you absolutely can. Then the next thing is, once the opportunity is deemed viable, we want to head to Google and we want to search for the product. We want to prioritize reputable sources and we want to avoid eBay and other peer-to-peer resellers. Once a product is located, we want to go ahead and get pricing and availability, preferably over the phone. However, if there's no phone number, you want to reach out via email, and you can do so using my free email template, which is posted in the tutorial playlist section of my YouTube channel. Pro tip, ask if there's a government sales division for better pricing. Now, if you can't get a formal quote, you want to go ahead and print PDF your screen as a placeholder to be able to submit your bid. And if you cannot submit your bid, you want to go ahead and create a folder. When I say create a folder, you're going to want to do this in Microsoft Excel or Google Drive, or if you're using a current CRM or sales software such as Zoho or Salesforce, you want to go ahead and you want to create a folder in there. And in that folder, you want to include the solicitation, you want to include your quote that you got from your vendor, and you want to include your bid summary confirmation and your bid summary. Now, if you're confused about what those things are, or if you're looking for a way to implement a system like that, click the link down below, speak with my team, and we will help you implement that. Now, if you are already registered in DIBS and your postcard has arrived, now is a point where you can bid on contracts. So this next section is going to be a couple pro tips for bidding. So you want to go ahead and you want to add 100 days to whatever your vendor quoted you on delivery. So what I mean by this is, if your vendor tells you it's going to take 50 days, do not submit your bid with anything less than a lead time of 150 days. You want to give yourself ample time to secure the material, package it, inspect it, receive it, and then ship it. And again, it's always good to just under promise and over deliver. Remember, we're doing business with the federal government here. We want them to like us, know us, trust us, and respect us. And then more importantly, remember us. And the way that people remember you is by outperforming whatever you told them you were going to do. Now, keep in mind, if you're not drop shipping, your cage of inspection or your supply/packaging cage code are both going to be your company. I see companies get confused about this all the time. They're like, okay, there's 2 different spots for the cage codes when I'm on the electronic quote submission page. What do I put there? If you are not drop shipping, both of those forms need to have your company cage code there. Now, the next thing you need to do is you need to verify the unit of issue is each and not a box or 100 or rolls or feet or whatever the case may be, because I hear horror stories all the time. Companies are like, oh my gosh, I just want a contract. And then I look at it, the contract says for 10 units. Okay, awesome, great. And then I look and it's 10 boxes, not 10 each, 10 boxes, and each box requires 10 units. So now you think that you priced yourself in the market for 10 units, but really you just underpriced yourself because the government actually wanted to purchase 100 units from you. That's the issue. So now you can imagine you end up really in the red. Next thing you have to do is you want to make your quote valid for at least 30 days, because this is the industry standard. So whenever you get a quote from your vendor with the pricing and availability, usually it's going to be valid for 30 days. Always read the fine print though, because they can put in there, sometimes their pricing and availability is subject to change without any further notice. So always read the fine print. And then you want to make sure that your the status of your quote is as a dealer and not a manufacturer. All right, so those are some of my pro tips for bidding. Let's go ahead and talk about the most important lessons that I have learned from government contracting over the last 5 years and some change. Rule number 1, it is not a government business. It is actually a people business. And so many people get this misconstrued. Everybody just wants to go hunt down the contracting officer. So a little free sauce for you guys. Anybody who has contracting officer in their name or contracting in their title is somebody who has the authority to buy. However, these are not the people who are publishing the requirements for the contracts themselves. What I mean by that is it's going to be people like the subject matter experts. It's going to be people like the program managers. It's going to be people like the relationship specialist. It's going to be people like the technical specialist. Those are going to be the people who, let's say if you're selling something that's going to end up on an F-35, which is a fighter jet, those are going to be people who worked on the fighter jets when they were active duty and now are helping the government procure them. Those are the people that you actually need to be talking to, because they are the ones that are publishing the requirements. They're not swiping the card and allocating the money, but they're the ones that are in charge of where it's going. And if you can get in touch with them, you're circumnavigating the whole hoopla of trying to get in touch with the contracting officer who doesn't want to pick up the phone whenever you reach out to them, because you're going straight to the source. You're going straight to the horse's mouth. So everybody's always focusing on the contracting officers, but those are not the people who generate the requisitions, all right? The next thing that you have to do, you've got to follow the money. And one of the ways that you can do that is by identifying the DODAC that you are most commonly doing business with. What is a DODAC, you might ask? It's an acronym and it stands for Department of Defense Activity Address Code. Fun fact, nobody's talking about this on the internet. Nobody's talking about this anywhere really, especially not on YouTube. The first 6 digits of every single DLA solicitation correspond to a physical place. So whenever you see like SPE4A6, that's DLA Aviation, and it corresponds to an address in Richmond, Virginia. So when you're going ahead and you're looking on FPDS at all of these different, which is the Federal Procurement Data System, which lists all of the government's transactions since 1978, and you're seeing all of these contracts, look at the first 6 digits of the contract number. If you keep seeing the first 6 digits pop up over and over again, you need to type that first 6 digits into Google and then type in DODAC and figure out the office that is actually issuing that money, or issuing the money for those contracts to be bought. And then you need to go on LinkedIn, you need to go find everybody who works for that office, and then you need to go look at the employees, and you need to go find the people who are the contract specialists or the program managers, etc., because those are the people that are issuing the contracts for the stuff that you're buying specifically. Now, that's some free sauce right there. That's some LinkedIn sauce for you guys. Another really important lesson that I've learned, you guys have to be documenting everything. The last thing that you need is for an audit to happen and then you fail the audit because you weren't documenting anything and they ask you to produce some paperwork and you can't do it. So I always tell you guys, make sure you're printing everything out and keeping it in a folder. So anything that has to do with the contract, any interactions that you've had with your vendors, anytime you get pricing in writing via email, anytime you're talking to a contracting officer, anytime you're printing out a shipping label, all that stuff needs to be printed out and you need to have at the very minimum a physical copy. Now, you can keep everything digitally and you can do that by uploading it again into Salesforce or Zoho, Google Drive, Microsoft Excel, whatever you want to do. But at the very minimum, you have to be having a physical copy of it and keeping it in a file cabinet or a storage bin or something like that, because I see it in our own government contracting business when they ask us to produce documents for a contract that we fulfilled 3, 4, 6, 9 months ago, right? And I've heard of people getting dinged for it, all right? Now, another gem of some free sauce here. If you are looking to figure out how to accurately price your materials, there's this free sauce, there's this website, and it's called the PPI, the Producer Price Index, and it is actually published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics every single year, and it's in a PDF, comes out every July. We're about to get the 2024 version, or I think the 2024 version came out. We're about to get the 2025 version in about 2 months here, and it literally tells you the percentage in the overall value of the market that you're looking at that the government is expecting. So what I mean by that is, let's say we're looking at welding equipment. It literally says like plus 13.8% in 2025 as opposed to 2024. That tells you, okay, that is how much growth the government is expecting in that sector. And it translates to how much of an increase in price the government is expecting for materials in that sector. So when you're trying to figure out how to price stuff, I give everybody an industry standard that works for us. And in all of our group coaching calls, I give everybody an industry standard that works for us. But if you're looking for concrete, specific evidence, go reference the Producer Price Index and it will literally tell you exactly what increase in price the government is expecting year over year. It literally tells you what your profit margin should be if you want to win the contract, guys. Go look at the Producer Price Index, and it's published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, another thing of free sauce, or maybe you know about it, maybe you don't, the government's fiscal year ends September 30th. It's not a calendar year. The contract year ends September 30th. What does that mean? It means that the best time to get started in government contracting is right now, these months. So everything that you do in the months of May, June, July, and August, the government is going to go ahead and award contracts to you during those months, because the government's budget has this little interesting caveat where if they don't spend at least 80% of the money that's allocated in their budget for that fiscal year, the following year, their budget is going to be decreased. Now, I don't know if you know anything about America and their defense spending, but we spend more than the next 10 countries do combined. So they quite literally have to spend a certain percentage of the money allocated in their budget every single year. The next year, it's going to go ahead and get decreased. We have not decreased our defense budget spending in over 15 years. So those are some of my most important key tips, tricks, free game, sauce, whatever you want to call it, that I've learned in the government contracting game. Now, if you're looking for systems to put in place to win your first government contract, if you hit all of the metrics that my team and I outlined for you to win your first government contract in the next 45 days, guaranteed. If you're willing to do the work, guys, click the link down below to speak with me and my team. Not only am I looking forward to your success, I'm absolutely sure of it. Let's go print those dollars.